Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Born in June of 1924, Les Griebling had a passion for speed. It began when he won his first soapbox derby at the age of 12 and blossomed as a test pilot during World War II. After the war, he would open up an auto repair business in Mansfield, Ohio, and with the president of the local sports car club, he'd stumble upon a local plot of land bought and bound for foreclosure. In the minds of Griebling and that rural field in Lexington, it held all that a racetrack could be. And on a beautiful day in August of 1962, to the delight of 30,000 spectators, road racing in Central Ohio, Mid-Ohio, was born. Hi everybody, and welcome to the aptly named Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course for week 1 of a new season, season number 8 of the Ray Esports Racing League, brought to you by Spec Racer Sports, Grassroots Motorsports Magazine, and new this season with us, Common Gear, here on Apex Racing TV. I'm Greg Ginsberg, and joining me in the announce booth tonight is Lee Thompson, along with Jonathan Grabowski in the virtual production trailer, and for 9 weeks of action across 4 classes, Spec Racer Ford, Spec Miata, and new for this season, 2 touring classes featuring the Volkswagen Jetta TDI Cup car in one and the brand new Toyota GR86 car in the other. We're going to have a great season of racing. On tap tonight will be 2 20-minute sprint races. First up is going to be Spec Racer Ford. You can see him on track right now. And we'll round out the evening with the touring cars. And if you're looking for some Spec Miata racing, make sure to join us next week for their season debut. So welcome, Lee, to the Ray Esports Racing League and to Mid-Ohio, home of madness.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks very much, Greg. So glad to be joining yourself and Jonathan for the great show that always is the Ray Esports League that we see each week here on Apex Racing TV. And good to hear a little bit of history on Mid-Ohio as well. I didn't expect to start the broadcast off by learning a bit of history there.
Yeah, well, you know, if there's one thing I am, it's a lover of the history of road racing and some of these tracks, and there's a lot more to Mr. Griebling and the history of the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, but you know, it's one of these classic circuits built into the land, and really has been the home of not only professional racing, but also club racing here in the United States for very many years. And certainly, Lee, you know, Mid-Ohio, with its constant elevation changes, its changes in camber, creates a huge challenge for our racers, as they are now just about halfway through qualifying. And as we watch Morgan Burkhardt come through the final corner onto the front straight here, let's do this. We're going to turn things over to Morgan, who was our Season 6 Spec Miata champion. He's going to give us tonight's track guide of the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Morgan Burkhardt for Team Delta Sport, and tonight we're doing a lap guide of the 2.4 mile 15 turn Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course with the chicane as we come across the start-finish line, working our way to the very fast turn 1, which is a slight dab on the brakes, kind of a late entry, hopping up on this curb to get some extra rotation, washing out to the exit of the corner using all the track, and then into this very fast chicane, which is flat out on entry, kind of a little bit of a dab on the brakes, keeping it tight as we come into the keyhole, which turns out to be a double apex in this configuration, trying to get to the throttle pretty early, use as much track as we can while we're unwinding the wheel as quickly as we can. And now the very long straight into China Beach, which in this format of the track is one of the best passing zones, so it's a good idea to get tucked up into the draft and try and outbrake people as we come up to China Beach, looking for our brake marker is about the 300 board, hard on the brakes, trailing off as we enter pretty late apex, coming out about half track as we enter Madness, coming over the crest of the hill. We want to short shift into fourth to reduce some wheel spin, coming back to the left to go into the second part of Madness, exiting, not using all the track, to use the shortest way that we can through the S's, and then coming up over this crest, it gets a little bit light. We just want to use all of the track that we can, let the car flow as we come into Thunder Valley, which is a very fast corner. The wall comes up really quickly on the right. We want to brush the mirror on it, turn in pretty quickly, just drag the brakes to get the rotation in as we come into the carousel, which is another double apex corner like the keyhole. Trail braking on entry, getting to the throttle as early as we can to get a good run out onto the main straight, and that is a completed lap of Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course for Ray Esports.
All right, and thanks so much to Morgan Burkhardt for tonight's track guide of Mid-Ohio. We're running the club course, as he pointed out during his track guide. That is the 15 turn 2.4 mile version of the track, and it's actually the first time that the Ray Esports Racing League over its 8 seasons has run this particular layout. Typically we run what's known as the pro course, the 2.58 mile 13 turn version without the chicane. And Lee, we've got the Spec Racer Fords now almost 10 minutes into their 15-minute qualifying session. I guess it's only apropos that Morgan Burkhardt goes to the top of the leaderboard here.
Yeah, absolutely, looking pretty comfortable at the minute. I think, you know, it's going to be interesting to see if anyone can close in on that 3/10 gap that he's got over him for the minute. I mean, just before we went away to the track guide, Steve, as well, you're talking about, you know, the sort of the feel that this Mid-Ohio track has with the camber and the undulations. I was sitting there thinking, it just reminds me of a classic UK track. You know, I can't think of off the top of my head of many, you know, US tracks that I could mistake for a British one. I think Mid-Ohio definitely fits. It's a really fun track to drive on. I mean, what are your impressions? I'm sure you've been there in real life and worked there professionally.
I've raced it. I've called multiple races at it, and it is certainly a challenge. And I rue the day, Lee, when iRacing rolls out the rain in their system, because yeah, this is the most treacherous racetrack I have ever encountered in the United States in the wet. The track surface definitely is somewhat older at this point, doesn't offer a lot of grip in the dry, let alone in the wet, where it's a total ice rink, as they say. But I mean, it is so challenging here, and it takes so much thought. Because the runs between many of these corners are so short, you really have to learn to set up passes. You know, we talk about how heading down the end of the back straight, going into turn 4 over by that enormous gravel trap known as China Beach. You know, you're looking, and we say that it's a great place, to make a pass. But truthfully, that's not where you make the pass. It's typically setting up to go up the hill into Madness on the following turn, and there are a lot of places like that here, and it actually reminds me a lot of a track where we called some races the other night. Very different, I think, in character, but the Hungaro Ring, which has many tight turns, lots of hairpins, and very short straights tying each one of those turn complexes together. It really makes it challenging to make a pass here.
Yeah, definitely a good shout. I see Hungary Ring for sure. both, let's say, good, produce good racing and a good fun to hot lap on as well. But yeah, just a couple of minutes left of the session for now. We can see we've got plenty of drivers still trying to put their laps in. I mean, who do you see in the order who's maybe a little bit out of place at the moment? Greg, like anyone you think that is going to challenge for those top positions?
Certainly. There are a number of drivers that we see, both new drivers to the series and also returning. Jim Brewster, who has had a couple of podium positions here in the Ray Esports Racing League, also runs in another one of the Ray Esports Leagues, the Weekend Warriors, held every Sunday on Apex Racing TV. He is currently running 15th in that orange number 933 machine. There he is going through turn one, starting his 7th flying lap. Obviously Stevie Ray, but we also have some real-life Spec Racer Ford racers that are maybe a little bit further down in the order than I would expect. Josh Justice driving the number 99 machine, currently sitting just off of Jim Brewster's pace in 16th position. He is one. Another driver, he was out for practice and has not turned a lap yet, and I think with now only a little bit more than a minute remaining, it may be a little bit too late for him. Bob Kucera, driver of the number 48 machine, not having turned a lap yet either. Not having turned a lap, he's a real-life Spec Racer Ford driver. As we just now see Beans Forster, our Season 7 champion, leapfrogging Antonio Rice and Megan Overstreet. He now moves up to 2nd fastest in class here. And with that 1:34.85, he's still about 0.2 of a second off of Morgan Burkhardt's provisional pole time. But a great lap there on lap number 8 for Beans Forster.
Yeah, definitely. And I wonder if Antonio has anything left as well in 3rd, Antonio Reyes. I mean, he got a purple sector 3 on his last attempt, so if he can string the rest of the lap together, it's possible that he could challenge as well. But we'll have to just wait and see how the lap plans out.
Well, we'll see here as he comes through turn 11, and car gets very loose coming down into the keyhole, or probably not into the keyhole, into the carousel, into this last turn sequence. As he makes his way back out onto the short front straight to cross the start-finish line. We'll see if he can improve upon his 3rd fastest position here, and he does not. Actually, talk about consistency there. His fastest lap, a 1:34.917, and he's only 0.04 of a second off of that. On that flying lap, he's got one more attempt, I think, to try and improve upon that 1:34.91 as he crossed the start-finish line just before the checkered flag flew. And we're watching right now Paul Slavonic in the number 528 machine, currently qualified 6th.
Yeah, and he was putting a pretty strong lap in so far. We can see just the one yellow sector, so the one sector where he didn't improve on his best, gets a personal best in the last as well, and goes faster with a 35.0, but doesn't improve in position.
Yeah, and it looks as though Antonio Reyes called off his final lap, and we do still have a few other drivers on track. Megan Overstreet, another racer in the Ray Esports Weekend Warriors leagues, both Spec Racer Ford and also Formula V. She is currently 4th fastest here this evening in qualifying as she comes through turn number 9, that big rise that sometimes catches drivers off as they don't anticipate the car actually losing actually catching air there, and she's coming through the final corners now and into the carousel. And she takes a very wide entry in that double apex turn to try and carry as much speed as possible onto the front straight. Again, she's looking to improve upon a 1:34.92 put in by Antonio Rice. And as she crosses the stripe, she does not improve upon her previous best. She throws down a 1:35.78. She's going to be the last driver to take a time and does not improve. So real quickly, before we have our drivers line up for their pace lap, and a very short pace lap here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. I want to quickly talk about our sponsor for tonight's first race of the evening, and that is Spec Racer Sports. And their mission is to help fuel and support your addiction to road racing. And Spec Racer Sports delivers by providing the parts and services you need when you need them at a fair and competitive price, all with exceptional customer support. Located trackside at Motorsports Ranch Houston, Spec Racer Sports offers exceptionally prepared Spec Racer Fords for rental and for sale. In addition, they offer storage and support, technical services such as chassis dyno work, driver coaching, as well as fabrication. Find out more about Spec Racer Sports and their services at www.specracersports.com. All right, so we've got our starting grid. Why don't you take the first half, Lee, and I'll get the back half of the field.
No problem at all. So as we saw, Morgan Burkhardt did take that pole position in the end, so fairly comfortable margin, quarter of a second, but it'll be interesting to see how that develops through the race. Benjamin Forster then was the best of the rest in second, just over 2 tenths behind. Antonio Rice then picked up that third place with Megan Overstreet, who we saw running at the end, in fourth. Justin Huffman and then in fifth, with Paul Slavonic in sixth. Chris Montgomery in seventh, with Andrew Wazencroft in eighth. Andrew Banach in 9th, with Charlie Vaccaro in 10th. Rafael Gallucci in 11th, with Jim Brewster in 12th.
All right, and starting 13th tonight on the inside of row number 7, it's going to be Bradford Gould in the number 97 machine with Stevie Ray, the Ray and Ray Esports Racing. He's starting 14th tonight. Nagase Yoshikawa, actually another driver, I'm a little surprised not to be a little further up. He's going to start 15th with Josh Justice 16th. Then John Casey and Deacon Greenfield, Mark Sherman, Wayne Buttermore, Joaquin Effinger, and Stephen Blethen. And it appears as though Casey and Bob Kucera not making the field. As the pace car is on the pit lane, Morgan Burkhardt has the field, and green flag is in the air. Burkhardt to driver's left, means Forster to driver's right as they're side by side going underneath the Cooper Tires Bridge. Antonia Rice and Megan Overstreet also still side by side as Rice seems to get the better of Overstreet, and we have a car that has gone off, and I think that's Nagase Yoshikawa in the black number 98 machine, the black and purple machine. He's going to be restarting from very far back in the field here, Lee.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for Yoshikawa there. Otherwise, super clean start for the rest of the field, not seeing a huge amount of shuffling elsewhere. Yeah, Morgan Burkhardt got off of the first turn and looks to be trying to defend as they head down the end of the straight.
Yeah, and already we can see both Burkhardt and Forster, opening up a little bit of a gap back to Rice. I think we've got that incident with Yoshikawa queued up. Let's take a look, Lee.
Yeah, let's see if we can see him just on the inside of turn 1 there. Is he going to get a little nudge from the right-hand side, perhaps, as he drifts across? Just have to wait and see. Oh, no, it was a little bit further back. And, yeah, just a little bit of contact between the 4 at the back there. Didn't look like a huge impact, Greg, to cause them spinning, so a bit unfortunate there.
Yeah, definitely unfortunate, and he's got a long way to go to catch up, and going to be difficult to catch the draft as our racers are coming through the final portion of the track. Lots of brake lockup and cars off into the grass. It looks like Paul Sylvanek has gone off. I think Justin Huffman, took to the grass as well. They're right about 6 cars deep, and we'll take a look at that in just a second. But coming through turn 1 now, completing lap number 1, starting lap number 2, it is Morgan Burkhardt as Beans Forster goes a little wide on exit, drops a wheel in the grass, no harm, no foul, as we've got Antonio Rice right back behind, and then Megan Overstreet keeping close to the top 3, and a big gap back to our second pack led by Huffman, Wozencroft, Vicario, and Bennett. Let's take a look and see what happened going into the carousel that last time by.
Yeah, I think we're going to see it getting a little bit messy in the middle of the pack as they come over the crest. And the 2 cars just ahead there. One car on the inside stuck his nose on. I think that was Slavonic probably. And, yeah, unfortunately then just collected the cars behind.
Yeah, it looked like Slavonic and Overstreet went into turn 11 side by side. Her car stayed nice and steady, and Slavonic was off into the grass, and a couple of people tried to avoid, as it looks like Andrew Benna in the number 71 machine, that blue and black entry right there with a little bit of an issue early on. He now falls all the way back into 14th position, losing 5 spots.
Yeah, and I think we'll have a quick look and see what happened to Andrew there as well. And yeah, like I say, the navy and black car that is in the center of our screen, and going to be into the braking zone, I guess, as he turns in. And just the rear comes around quite early. It seemed like Greg, before he'd even really got very close to the apex.
Yeah, exactly. He turned in, the rear end kept rotating on him. Maybe a little bit too much in the way, a little bit too much brake pressure on the trail braking, putting a little bit too much weight on the nose. But he seemed to catch it in good time there, got the car back under control, and I think almost as importantly, the cars trailing right behind him were able to slide underneath and continue on without any additional impact. But let's jump back to this battle for the lead. Morgan Burkhardt, Beans Forster, Antonio Rice, Megan Overstreet in the 044 machine right behind him, just turned the fastest lap of the race. She's caught up in that draft as well as they come down the longest straightaway here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. And Beans Forster taking a look to the inside, coming down into turn 4. And for a moment there, Morgan Burkhardt maybe looked a little indecisive if he wanted to go and defend or not, and that might have been just enough to delay Beans Forster's decision making there going down into the corner.
Yeah, certainly, and it just allowed the rest of the top 3 then to close right up as well. So we've got a few little groups forming. Yeah, we've got the top 4 who we saw a moment ago. We've got then sort of 7th back to 10th, and then we've got this battle for the tail end of the top 10. And we can see Montgomery currently on screen that we're watching, hunting down Brewster there as they head towards the back of the circuit.
Yeah, indeed. That is the battle right now for 8th position. Jim Brewster, you know, I talked during qualifying that maybe he was qualifying a little bit out of place. He made up 4 positions on the start. Chris Montgomery, who started in 7th, finds himself right now in 9th position. So he lost a couple positions there. Rafael Gallucci, Stevie Ray, Bradford Gould, all part of that little pack right now, and trying to make up ground and perhaps use the 933 machine of Brewster as a bit of a bridge up to the next pack in line. Charles Vaccaro running in 7th with Andrew Wozencroft and also Justin Huffman. So we've got a couple packs of 4. Just all separated, each one of those packs, and actually that 3rd pack, more than just 4. It's looking to be about 6 cars now, as Deacon Greenfield and Josh Justice have joined that pack. But we've got these multiple packs now starting to separate out as we go back to that battle for the lead, and it is a new leader, Lee, as Beans Forster manages to get around the number 40 machine of Morgan Burkhardt.
And we saw him, you know, eye up that move the lap before, didn't we, Greg? So clearly that time Burkhardt still didn't defend hard enough, and Forster decided that the opportunity was there and got it done. So let's see how he kind of is for pace. It's always a different feeling when you've suddenly got an empty track in front of you, Greg, compared to following as you the previous laps. And looks like Burkhardt is not interested in Forster taking his time with it, as Vaccaro in the background having a bit of an issue as well, dropping down the field.
Yeah, as Vaccaro goes around at that turn 9, as the cars get very light and as he back out onto the track, we saw a couple of drivers have to go and avoid coming over the apex. All right, let's take a look and see what happened to Vaccaro there coming through turn 9. As he sets up and gets a lot of curbing at the apex there, but I think same deal, Lee. We're seeing the drivers maybe transfer a lot of that weight to the nose and the rear end, just kind of walking around on them before they even get back to the apex.
Absolutely looked like a carbon copy, didn't it? So yeah. Clearly pretty tricky for the guys there with the balance of the car, how they're trying to bleed off the brakes as they're heading into the apex. So yeah, something for them to be wary of and for us to keep an eye on. And Forster's having to keep a close eye on Burkhardt as he's got getting pushed along down the main straight, and doesn't shape up for the move that he made on Burkhardt that time. So yeah, V's lead 4 still looking pretty comfortable. I feel like Megan Overstreet is just keeping a fraction further back, just keeping kind of nose clean, keeping in the draft of these guys. And we saw that she had the pace a couple of laps ago when you spotted that she got the fastest lap. I feel like she's just allowing herself a little bit of breathing space to these guys ahead.
The exact same thing, that perhaps she's just sitting back there to try and give herself an out in case something happens ahead. Now, I think also as we have, I think this is Mark Sherman, who has just now gone off track, coming up through turn 4 and just now gets over the top of Madness. Oh, and Beans Forster goes around in the carousel. Lee, he's going to fall now all the way back in the 6th position. That's going to bring Morgan Burkhardt back up to the lead. Antonio Rice in the 2nd, Megan Overstreet into 3rd. Let's see if we've got it queued up and see exactly what happened there to our leader.
Yeah, I hope we're not going to see him get nudged by Burkhardt, because we saw how close they were. And here we come into the final sector. And it's just that rear coming around again, Greg. With 3 times we've seen it now. Different corner, granted.
True.
But yeah, absolutely the same problem. All the guys struggling out there today, and even say one of the top drivers.
Yeah, certainly. Now, of course, the carousel presents a lot of challenges there in order to, in trying to keep the rear end underneath you. As you go out wider, as you try to square off that corner, and you get more towards driver's left, the track does drop off. It is off camber out there, much like the keyhole is somewhat off camber, and he may have just wandered a little bit too far out, as we're watching a great battle right now for 8th position is Stevie Ray. On the brakes, gets underneath Gould, but Gould trying to come back underneath him, going into Madness, and they're side by side as they come down the hill into turn number 6. They've got Justice and Deacon Greenfield close behind, but great little tete there as Gould almost got the position back from Stevie Ray.
Yeah, and Stevie having a big oversteer moment, I think, as we just switched off of the onboard there. We could see it ahead, rear stepped out, but he managed to keep it together, and we can see that's why he's lost that momentum, and Gould's been able to come back by. But yeah, that middle of the circuit there, Greg, obviously is a great place for those sort of switchbacks, as for the opportunity to complete a move never really finishes, and the car can keep returning on you.
Yeah, exactly. It could go on for 3 and sometimes 4 corners long before you finally feel like you can rest for even the briefest of moments there. As Gould retakes 8th, Stevie Ray sits in 9th, Josh Justice and Deacon Greenfield, and now Josh Justice once again taking it to Stevie Ray, gets past Stevie Ray going into the chicane, got a great run out of turn number 1, and as they come now down through the keyhole, it's a question of Stevie Ray whether or not he can get a good run out, whether he can hold off Deacon Greenfield. And so, Lee, as we had that incident with our leader, or our previous leader, Beans Forster, a lap ago, and here's Beans now sitting in 6th position, so he's already made his way back around Jim Brewster, but a long way to go to get back up to that lead pack. I was going to say, we were watching as Morgan Burkhardt was just kind of sitting back there and bump drafting, or trying to push Forster ahead, and I think a lot of it, and it looks like Antonio Rice might have gotten a slowdown possibly, as Megan Overstreet now in the 044 machine now moves up into 2nd position.
Yeah, good spot. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see now if Megan can pull her way back to Burkhardt a little bit, or whether Rice is gonna try and come straight back at her.
Yeah, and so, with these very short races, these are only 20-minute sprint races. Usually what you want to try and do, in longer format races, is maybe work with a partner and try to separate yourself out from the rest of the field. And, that hasn't necessarily happened here at the front, although I think with Beans Forster going around, it's definitely split up the lead pack. And Beans Forster now gets around Andrew Wozencroft. So Forster now up into 5th, and next in line for him, Justin Huffman in the 223 machine, in that black, orange, and yellow machine. And you can see as Forster now has his sights on the 223. And Huffman finished quite well last year, not only in Spec Racer Ford, but also in the IR04s, which are not returning for this season. Of course, Huffman, what they call Formula Enterprises 2 Formula car racer in the Sports Car Co of America in real life, and able to take his talents here to the virtual world. He also has his son, a stalwart in the Esports Racing League, not with us here this weekend or this week, but I'm sure we'll see him return soon enough. That's Jamison Huffman, as we've got Josh Justice battling it out with Bradford Gould coming over Madness down into turn 6. And the 99 machine now holding off the 97. Stevie Ray still sitting 3rd in that pack with Deacon Greenfield. I think pretty much playing the same position as we saw Megan Overstreet in that other group. I think just kind of hanging back. Maybe doesn't have the ultimate pace of the 3 cars ahead of him, but giving himself an out in case something happens ahead.
Yeah, definitely. This battle looks to show no signs of subsiding, does it? As it continues to be a tough run for the top 8. And there we go. Greenfield just has that little bit of an issue there. Doesn't quite manage to hold on. And yeah, that's going to be down to a 3-car battle now for that 8th position.
Yeah, as we saw Greenfield there, I think trying to avoid the little wiggle that Stevie Ray put in as they came in through turn 7, and maybe gave a little bit too much deference to him as they went down into the carousel. Let's take a look here.
Yeah, so we can see Stevie just at the back of the 3 there, and let's see how that rear got away from him as they work their way into the carousel. Or the corner before other. So runs out of road.
Grass, yeah. And still that last little wiggle as Stevie Ray moves to the center of the track, coming down into the carousel, and we see Greenfield move drivers left, maybe a little bit of an overreaction, and takes to the grass there, and that now moves Deacon Greenfield down into 12th position. Still not a bad run for Greenfield. He's started 18th tonight and sitting in 12th.
Yeah, he's second biggest mover on the grid, in fact. So yeah, despite having that issue, still a very good run, like you say. We'll see if he's able to gain his spot back on Montgomery shortly as well. Almost down to 5 minutes remaining of the race. Looks like Burkhardt, should have things under control at the front. He's got a 2.5 gap now over to Megan Overstreet, but Antonia Rice hasn't managed to come back at Megan. So Megan's shown that she's got the pace to be running at the front here, and yeah, we'll see if these guys can keep it clean in these last few laps. Yeah, indeed. As I think as we find Race out of the draft right now, not able to pull any closer, running very similar lap times. As a matter of fact, that last time by, almost identical lap times are both Rice and Overstreet, as they both ran a 1 minute 35.68. But you can see here as he is about 2.5 seconds off of the back of Megan Overstreet currently, and a long way to go. But we've got Beans Forster now on that recovery run. He's caught up to Jamison Huffman, Lee, and as they come through the kink on the back straight here, they are side pod to side pod, but not for long. Beans Forster now taking over 4th position. And into China Beach all over again. So he was running a second a lap quicker than those guys around him, and gets the last position that he was going to have the opportunity to make. He wasn't going to be able to make any more forward, and that's it. Has it all to do again. So yeah, back behind Brewster, Rosencroft, and Huffman again. Yeah, and so again, Forster, our season 7 Spec Racer Ford champion, with a second critical mistake here tonight in our opening round of season number 8, and we can see now that Gould and Stevie Ray start, and of course Josh Justice, who is only about a quarter of a car length behind the number 11 car, starting to make up some ground now on Beans Forster, as Forster, I'm sure, trying to get some of that gravel and get that grass off the Spec Racer Ford. Yeah, and I feel like this is just going to continue on all the way to the very end of the race. So Stevie Ray looking like the one who's going to try and make the next move anytime soon. And yeah, these guys are lapping at a pretty consistent pace as well, in the sort of low to mid 36s. So Stevie Ray was a fair chunk quicker than the other guys that time by as well. And so yeah, good to see they're running at a pace similar to sort of 4th, 5th, 6th position in front of them as well. And interesting to note, as we see Josh Justice maybe a little bit late, a little bit too late on the brakes going into the keyhole, almost got right into the back of the number 11 car there and lost ground on exit. Interestingly enough, I was talking to Josh Justice this week, and he said this is probably going to be the only time in the next 3 weeks that he isn't racing at the Circuit of the Americas. I am bound to see Josh at the and Gould having some issues going through turn 4 and up the hill to Madness. He's going to lose 2 positions. Stevie Ray, looks like Stevie Ray not going to have to hold that move to the end. He's able to drive right on by the number 97, as is Josh Justice. Yeah, and Gould did a great job of gathering it back up and not really losing certainly too much time, and kept himself in the battle. So so he's got the opportunity to try and come back at these guys, and already actually he's pretty close on the back of Justice. And so I would say that that Justice, who's a real-life Spec Racer Ford racer from Texas, I'm
bound to call a real-life race with Josh Justice in 3 weeks at the Circuit of the Americas, and so obviously he's using the iRacing platform to prepare as much as possible. He said this was the one night probably in the next 3 weeks that he wouldn't be racing at COTA. And so right now, Josh Justice, again, having made up 7 positions, currently sitting 9th here, as we now have less than 2 minutes remaining, and we're watching our leader, Morgan Burkhardt, our pole sitter tonight, Morgan Burkhardt, and he has now opened up a 3.5-second advantage over Megan Overstreet in second, and it is certainly, as they say, it's Morgan Burkhardt's race to lose here for that number 40 machine.
Yeah, ever since he Forster had his issue, he's looked much more under control, and yeah, just been able to manage this gap pretty comfortably. But it's been a lot less comfortable back for this battle at the 8th position again, as yeah, Stevie Ray and Justice side by side. Stevie Ray going to get stuck on the outside a little bit. Can he hang on, ready for the switchback? And he can. He should get the run off the corner, and Stevie Ray holding just barely on for the moment.
And there you go, as they come over the rise there through the S's at Mid-Ohio. And here we come now, Morgan Burkhardt taking the white flag, 1 lap to go here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Cars for our very first race of the season. Let's jump back to that battle between Justice, Stevie Ray, and Brad Gould.
Stevie struggling through the sort of mid to exit there. We saw how he was having to correct and overcorrect and really lost the momentum. I thought Justice was going to get in the back of him, but well managed by all of them, and Justice gonna have a little look.
Yeah, Justice takes a look down to the inside, and you can see there is Stevie Ray maybe protecting just a little bit, edging to driver's left, maybe a quarter of a car width, so that he doesn't lose a lot of pace coming out of turn 1. But Justice now alongside the number 11 as they come down into the S's. That would push Justice to the outside driver's left as they come up to the keyhole. And, you know, all the while, and the difficult thing here as we watch this battle, Lee, certainly the most difficult, the driver in the most difficult position is Josh Justice, because not only does he have to look for a way to get around the number 11 car, he's got to protect against the 97 right behind him.
Yeah, so it looks like he's looking to attack for now, though. So Stevie Ray goes very, very defensive as they head into the braking zone. Justice much later, swooping around the outside. Let's see how tight a line Stevie Ray can keep and whether he can get the switch back and hang that line on the outside. But no, Justice gets the run off the corner, and Stevie Ray now struggling a little bit against Gould.
Yeah, and that is the consummate move there, is Morgan Burkhardt is going to come around the final corners out of the carousel onto the front straight and take the very first win here of season 8. Megan Overstreet is going to come home in second, and the last step on the podium is going to belong to Antonio Rice. 1, 2, 3. Coming home in fourth is going to be Justin Huffman. But you know, that is the consummate move there. Lee, coming through turn 4 is if somebody goes to defend to the inside, you stay out wide, you turn in as late as possible, and then you've got the inside line going up into madness, and that has paid off on the last lap for Josh Justice, who's going to bring his car home in 8th ahead of Stevie Ray. Just ahead of Justice, Andrew Wozencroft finished in 5th, Jim Brewster 6th, Beans Forster who started on the front row this evening, is going to come home in 7th. And so great run there. And Lee, hopefully within the next few moments, we'll have some of our podium finishers here to talk to before we get set up. But again, want to remind everybody, don't leave. This is not the last race of the night. We've got one more race tonight, and it is going to be a barn burner, I think. Here is it's going to be our touring cars. We're going to have both the Toyota GR86 Cup cars, very new to the iRacing platform, and actually going to be in the United States, used in a single make, single mark series in SRO World Challenge coming up this spring. And then we're also going to have the Volkswagen TDI Cup cars. And so we've got both Megan Overstreet and Morgan Burkhardt waiting for us in the green room. Lee, let's talk to Megan, finishing second tonight in Spec Racer Ford.
Yeah, hey Megan, congratulations on your second position in the race, and welcome to the commentary booth. Talk us through how that went from your side. Looked like you had it under control really from the start.
That was a really fun race. I was a little off pace, but thanks to the draft, I was able to hang in and midway through the race when Antonio got a little loose and I got around him, I lost the draft, and from there it was just try to play catch up, but Morgan just had the better pace over me.
Well, I think Morgan looked like he had things under control after his the little incident for Forster, but for sure, yeah, you managed to stick in there all the way. We saw a number of drivers having, oversteer issues, sort of entry to mid corner. I mean, how were you finding the handling of the cars? Did you have any sort of scary moments yourself?
I had a couple during the race, but for the most part, it started getting a little bit warmer and the car just kept getting looser and looser as the run went. But thankfully, I kept it all under control.
Yeah, well, so you certainly did with that second position finish. So no, great job again. How do you like Mid Ohio as a circuit to race at? Allows some close racing out there.
It's fantastic. I literally just bought the track right before the session started, so
Oh wow.
I had a lot of fun.
Well, you learnt the track super quick then. So yeah, congratulations on that. Anyone you want to thank, Megan, before we move on to the next interview?
Yeah, y'all for doing the broadcast. Y'all do a fantastic job. I'd like to also thank my family, all the folks that come to these races, and Stevie for putting this all on.
Awesome, excellent. Thanks very much. Good to hear from you, and hopefully we'll see you back in the booth again soon.
Thank you. Y'all have a good one.
Thanks.
All
Bye-bye.
right, there you go. Megan Overstreet finishing second tonight in Spec Racer Ford. And let's now bring in Morgan Burkhardt, driver of the number 40 Spec Racer Ford, going not flag the flag, but he was our pole sitter, took the win tonight in round 1 of the Esports Racing League.
Hi Morgan, congratulations on the race win and welcome to the commentary booth. Looked like things were fairly hectic at the start and then a bit more straightforward towards the second half. Talk us through the race from your end.
Yeah, I mean the start of the race is always a little bit hectic and you kind of got to work through it. But I got out to the lead pretty early and kind of just kept Beans and Antonio and Megan in check. So it was pretty straightforward. And then Beans wanted to go around. And I kind of just let that happen. I wanted to see if he was quicker at all and how I could follow. And fortunately, he made a mistake. But then after that, I broke the draft and was able to relax a bit.
Yeah, I would say definitely looked like you were able to relax in that second half a little bit and gradually just build the gap and keep things nice consistent. I mean, how do you like Mid Ohio out there? It's obviously tricky with the cambers and the elevation changes. I mean, how did you find the car out there in that track?
I personally love Mid Ohio. I think it's a wonderful track. Every time we come here, I can't stop driving it. So. It's definitely a driver's track. It's very difficult with a lot of technical pieces to it, so it's always a lot of fun.
And what's your favorite corner on the track then, since it's your favorite track?
Gonna have to go with the keyhole, and especially the keyhole with the chicane. But then it's very close with Madness.
Yeah. Well, and two fairly similar feelings on both those sections as well, I'm sure. So yeah, awesome. Yeah. Well, congratulations again on the win, Morgan. Like I say, good to see that you found it straightforward out there. Anyone you want to give a shout out to before we finish up?
Definitely shout out my parents, my grandparents for making all this possible. They give me all of the resources that I need to succeed. And the rest of the team for just hanging out and having a good time and voice chat while we do this. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us in the booth, and we'll see you again very soon, I'm sure.
Okay.
All right, there you go. Morgan Burkhardt taking the win tonight in Spec Racer Ford. Again, hold tight. We're going to be back here in just a few moments. We're going to thank some of our partners and sponsors. And when we do return, we are going to have some touring car action from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. We'll be right back. welcome back to the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course for week number 1 of season number 8 of the Ray Esports Racing League, presented by Common Gear, Grassroots Motorsports Magazine, and Spec Racer Sports. I'm Greg Ginsburg, along with Lee Thompson. And Lee, it was a great race to start off the evening. I can only imagine as I'm looking down through the field, and we've got somewhere around 35 to 40 touring cars heading out for what's going to be a very congested qualifying here tonight.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a bit frantic out there for sure. Mid-Ohio is a compact place, and yeah, a lot of drivers out there. But like you say, we just saw a great race 1. We saw clean racing all the way through. The only little incidents were just sort of self-inflicted oversteer moments. We didn't have real contacts and crashes and things. So let's see if this bigger field of touring cars can deliver the same.
That's right. Now I think it's going to be hard to see self-induced oversteer with the Volkswagen Jettas that we have out on track right now. But let's break things down here. We have 2 different platforms, 2 cars out on track. We've got the Volkswagen Jetta, and this is not just any old Jetta, but these are the TDI Cup diesel cars that used to run in pro racing competition here in the United States back in the 2010 to 2013 time period. And then we've got the brand new Toyota GR86 Cup cars that were just released about 2 months ago on the iRacing platform, and they're going to be used in national pro racing competition here in the United States starting this spring. And it is a very, very big field. And these cars, I was going to say, Lee, I'm not sure how well they'll race together, but certainly the Jettas, they draft very well. They work in packs. They're the big boxy cars, and they've got a lot of they've got certainly a lot of torque to dig out of some of the slower corners here at Mid-Ohio. And I think, as far as the GR86 cars, and from what I've been seeing, a lot of drivers are still, I think, trying to come to grips with them. They're very softly sprung. They've got a lot of grip from their slick tires, much like the Jettas do. But the handling is somewhat off-putting if you haven't had a lot of practice with them.
That's going to be really interesting to see. I have to say, I've not seen a huge amount of the new GR86s yet. I'm assuming kind of much of the same, though. I presume the Jettas are going to really get the run down that back straight and really kind of swamp the GR86s, and then the GR86s coming back on the infield. But we'll have to see. The balance between the cars is going to be super different as they're going through those different cambers and undulations. So we've not got long left of qualifying before we find out how they cope in the races. We can see at the minute, actual kind of raw lap time, there's not a huge range, right, it seems. No. So we've got a 1 second gap between the lead Toyota and the lead Volkswagen, and most of the field sort of spread with sort of 3-4 seconds. So kind of a bit surprising. Yeah,
if we take a look at it, Caleb Patry right now with the number 198 GR86 there. He is coming out of the keyhole. Currently your fastest driver on track, provisional pole time of 137.47. Bob Kucera in the number 48 machine, currently second fastest, and he is only about 0.07 of a second off of Patry's times. There's Bob in the 48 machine. And then we've got Giancarlo Schooler, third fastest. He's one of Morgan Burkhardt's teammates, driving that black number 111 machine, or gray number 111 machine, at a 137.74. He's only about 0.2 off of our top 2 drivers. Fastest driver with the Volkswagen Jettas right now is Morgan Burkhardt, our winner from race 1 tonight, driving the number 40 machine. And there he is, just coming out of the pit lane and onto the racetrack. The marker that he has thrown down for the Jettas, a 138.62. Next fastest driver in the Jettas is going to be Beans Forster, driving the number 231 machine. Currently not on track, but a fast time for him of a 139 flat. So just about 0.4 of a second separating those 2 drivers, and it's not till you get back to Seth Spolman in the number 42 machine. He is your third fastest driver on track currently, the 139.65. And interestingly enough, we'll say, Lee, that it may surprise a lot of people that we have so many racers here tonight racing in the Jettas. Now, the Esports Racing League is known as the unofficial SCCA, Sports Car Club of America Racing League. And there was, for a number of years, a league, a grassroots league put together by a Sports Car Club of America racer in conjunction with the SCCA Foundation. It was put together during COVID times, and the most popular class that they ran, primarily because a lot of these drivers raced small, in real life were racing small front-wheel drive cars, were actually the Volkswagen Jettas. And it appears, as I'm going up and down the list, a very large number of racers from that original SCCA Foundations League are here racing with us tonight, much like Frank Schwartz, driver of the number 24 machine, currently 7th fastest in the Jettas. He was actually the league admin and the originator of that SCCA Foundations League, so glad to see him over here this evening. We're seeing Andrew Benna, who of course has been racing with us for a number of years in the Esports Racing League. He comes from that league as well. But wanted to mention our third fastest driver in the Jettas at the time, and I think he's now the 4th fastest driver, Seth Spolman, in the 42 machine. Started racing in that league 2.5 years ago. He's actually racing tonight from Seoul, South Korea. So great to see him joining in, and also great to see that he has real low ping times on this US server. So,
yes. Yeah,
we'll
fingers
see.
crossed to everyone negotiating around a half-second window of him. So that'll be good.
Exactly. Might have some netcode issues here tonight around that yellow number 42 machine, but we'll see how he does. But always very close, tight racing with those Jettas. Oh, as we have a big coming together. That's Charles Vaccaro in the 221 machine. Coming out of the final corner, going around and hitting the wall, and I think the other driver around him might have been, I think that might have been Caleb Pocock, possibly, but looks like Vaccaro's gotten the repair, and he is back underway. Here as we're now back, and we only have about 3 minutes remaining in qualifying here, Lee, but Caleb Patry has just put in a new fast lap, reset the provisional pole time to a 136.95. That's now almost 0.4 of a second clear of Giancarlo Schooler.
Yeah, and I mean, himself and Schooler were just trading lap times a couple of minutes ago as well. Schooler briefly went P1 and Patry got it back. But yeah, now the first car in the 36s, he's just really cemented that position. So we'll see if Schooler or anyone else can challenge. But yeah, 4/10 gap at the minute.
And there we go. There is Giancarlo Schooler in that 111 machine, coming up on some traffic here as they come out of the chicane and through the keyhole. This may not be, and gets a little loose on the second half of the keyhole as the track transitions to that off-camber mode. This may not be a fast lap for Schooler, but Patry for the moment has had some clear track. We'll see how that plays out as we see him a little bit further back in the distance here. We'll see how it plays out on the back half of this course.
And we can hear the tyre squeal of the Jettas as well. We were sort of joking a minute ago about the rear ends coming around. Well, of course, they are coming around on the Jettas, but it just kind of isn't a concern in any way.
Want them
but
to.
We're going to see plenty of it still, yeah.
You want them to, and as a front-wheel drive racer myself, oh, that's not something you want to see. As Will Robbins was following one of the Jettas, and Robbins getting into the wall and getting into another driver there. I'm not sure who he impacted over there, but I think as he was trying to avoid one of the Jettas coming through the final corner. Certainly an issue for him as we're back on board with Morgan Burkhardt. And I think more than anything else here tonight, Lee, the amount of traffic as we now have 40 drivers who have set qualifying times, only 3 drivers who have not so far on track. Again, very hectic, very tight, and very difficult to negotiate and work with other racers in order to set a fast lap.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, to be fair, we haven't seen too many issues so far on screen of, well, right on cue. I was going to say of tripping each other up. So I think for the most part they've done a pretty good job. But yeah, unfortunate for Nichols there with the Jetta trying and failing to get out the way that time. Yeah, last opportunities now for everyone out on track to get their qualifying lap in. Still plenty of opportunities for moving up the grid.
Yeah, indeed. And so Murphy Nichols in that number 5 GR86 was on a fairly good run until he came up on some Jetta traffic through madness on what is going to be the very last lap for him here in qualifying, as the checkered flag is now out on the session. And last flying laps here will count. And as it stands, Murphy Nichols does not improve. He was about 0.3 of a second off of his previous best lap time, putting down a 137.90 that last time around. Here is we've still got a number of drivers working to make their way across the line, complete their last flying laps. Caleb Patry and Giancarlo Schooler currently your two fastest drivers on track, with Bob Kucera and Murphy Nichols third and fourth fastest, all in GR86s. Our top 10 drivers at this moment, all GR86s, and actually now is Jim Brewster and Nagase Yoshikawa put in very good last flying laps. We'll say that the top 11 are all or 12 are all GR86s, as we have some drivers putting in some very good laps at the last moment here, at the last possible time. And as we see Morgan Burkhardt, who is our Jetta pole sitter, starting to drop a little further down the field. A moment ago, when the checkered flag came out, he was 10th fastest. He now finds himself 13th fastest, but still fastest of all the Jetta drivers.
And Schooler in second there got his fastest lap of the session in those closing moments, and almost got to in reach of Patry there, just ending up a 10th off. And at the same time, Kucera jumped up in the order as well, and yeah, is in third.
All right, so Megan Overstreet, we're on board right now as she's trying to put in, I think this lap should count in that pink number 044 machine. Megan, again, coming in second tonight in Spec Racer Fords. And Lee, probably the most amazing thing about her run was her admission in her interview with you that she purchased the track just before the session started.
I always find that sort of stuff depressing, right? You know,
yes.
you interview the podium. Oh yeah, never driven a track before. Yeah, it was fine. It was good. So, yeah. It's. I'm sure that would have been a bit upsetting for some of the other drivers in in the session, right? So yeah, amazing from Megan. So we'll see, you know, how much that first race has allowed her to learn then for jumping in this very different car of the GR86.
Indeed, and Megan does not improve on her last flying lap. Real quick, Lee, before we get to the starting grid, let me run down and talk about our sponsor for tonight's second race of the evening, and that is the Common Gear, your single source for securely digitizing and storing automotive maintenance records. From photos of maintenance or restoration work to scans of receipts, users can easily catalog every piece of a car's story. Digitize or scan and backup securely in one location. Documenting your diagnostic and repair processes is as important as the work itself. And with the Common Gear, you can keep track of the steps you take, the parts and experts you use, all the aspects of your car's history. Don't risk losing value in your investment due to lost or incomplete service and repair records. For more information, visit Common Gear at www.thecommongear.com or on Instagram at _common_gear. All right, so we've got our drivers gridding up for the start here, Lee, and let's run down as many as we can.
Yeah, let's see how far we go. So Caleb Patry, as we said, in pole position by just a 10th of a second over Giancarlo Schooler. Then Bob Kucera in third with Murphy Nichols in fourth. Will Robbins in fifth with Justin Huffman in sixth. Brian McCrea in seventh with Deacon Greenfield in eighth. Skip Brock then in ninth with John Wilson in 10th. Jim Brewster in 11th. And Nagase Yoshikawa in 12th.
All right, so Morgan Burkhardt is going to be your first TDI Cup car. He's going to start 13th, and we've got Chris Montgomery and Josh Justice both in the Toyotas. Andrew Pilata starting 16th tonight. He will be in one of the Jettas. And then we've got Caleb Pocock, Megan Overstreet, Stevie Ray, Beans Forster, Antonio Rice, Charles Vaccaro, Seth Spolman, and Trenton Kramer. And we're going to let the rest of these drivers kind of scroll through here, as I think we're waiting for the rest of the GR86 field to catch up to our pole sitter, Caleb Patry. Now, because we've got the field intermixed, this might be a bit of a challenge, Lee. The GR86s have a notoriously tall first and second gears. They don't get away very well. And as we mentioned, you know, the one advantage of the Jettas is they've got a lot of torque. Yeah, so we'll see what happens here as the green flag is in the air, and Carlos Schooler, John Carlos Schooler, probably Carlos is his father, a little bit off the pace on the start. He immediately falls into third position, back behind Bob Kucera and our pole sitter, Caleb Patry, as they come through turn one, and so far so good. And I see the Jetta of Morgan Burkhardt now already making up 2 positions as they come down into the keyhole for the very first time. Many of these cars and drivers still side by side, but you know, Lee, I'm just waiting for the calamity to start here as we've got the Jettas starting to and first driver to go around, that is going to be Antonio Rice, who finished third tonight in our first race. He's off in the grass. We have another driver off, and I believe, and I'll have to see who that's Caleb Pocock in the number 88 car. He's now falling back through the order as well. But so far, other than those two incidents, they're so good, as it's Patrick Kucera, Schooler, Nichols, Will Robbins. We're looking right now at the 36 of Deacon Greenfield, as he's leading the second pack with Justin Huffman, John Wilson, Brian McRae, and Nagase Yoshikawa behind. But at the moment, it looks to be a 2-car breakaway here, Lee, with Patry and Kucera.
Yeah, absolutely. These two trying to get away from the start. Unfortunately, on that green light, we did have a little bit of an incident in the midfield, and we lost a handful of cars. So we'll see how they manage to recover. But let's have a quick look at the tail end of the incident we saw with Rice, as he's hugging the inside as they work away through the keyhole. And yeah, just a little tag on the outside, was it, Greg? I couldn't quite see where the contact was actually made. But
it was close. It certainly was close. I didn't see the car number, but enough to send Antonio Rice around and into the grass as we jump back to the live action. And I said it was a 2-car fight at the beginning. Well, now it's only a 1-car fight, as Caleb Patry has now worked his way clear of Bob Kucera. Kucera has Giancarlo Schooler, as well as Murphy Nichols and Will Robbins to contend with. As Schooler takes a little poke to the inside, but he's about 3 car lengths back now from Kucera. I don't think he's got a real shot this early on the straightaway. We'll have to see as they get down to the back. Now, Lee, I was talking about, and this is maybe a bit of a surprise. Joaquin Effinger, driver of the number 700 Golf, he puts the car around. That is after making up 12 positions that he puts the car around, quickly goes and recovers out of the keyhole in his back underway. But I was going to say, you know, I talked during qualifying about how big a hole the Jetta's put in the air and how easy it is to draft. You know, I found in my time behind the wheel of the GR86 car that the wings on the back of these cars do create a bit of a disturbance, and it is, you know, you may not be able to pull up in the draft if you're a second back coming out of a corner, but they do work together quite well, and you can make up a good amount of ground on the straightaways.
Okay, yeah, good to know then that's the sort of gaps that we're looking for a move to be made. As we see a gaggle of Jettas at the front, they're leading a couple of the Toyotas. There's lead one takes a very, very deep line trying to cut back on the second apex, but I think doesn't quite manage it, so he's going to be defending hard now as they head into turn one. So that was going to be Slavonic, I think, who in the black car there, who was just struggling through the carousel. So we'll see what pressure Spolman here can put him under as they head towards the keyhole.
Yeah, and so you've got Slavonic, Spolman, and Andrew Benna there, and then Andrew Wozencroft. You can see the one GR86 car in a gaggle of Jettas kind of right in the middle, as we're now looking at Bob Kucera. Look at this. This is a number 48 machine. He was just a moment ago running in second, and he has now fallen all the way back into 9th position, Lee. And let's take a look and see exactly what happened as they went into the chicane side by side with Giancarlo Schooler. Schooler to drivers left to the outside, and we saw there as Kucera tags the back of the 111 machine. The front end comes around, he goes in the grass, and it's a long way to recover when that happens.
Yeah, and we could see how that kind of developed. Like a couple of apexes earlier, he was always just struggling to get himself back in a position where he was comfortable and was always hanging on to the car, and just, yeah, unfortunately didn't have the track space at the end there as Kucera now trying to recover.
Yeah, and of course these GR86s, they have quite a bit more in the way of adjustability than the Jettas do themselves. You know, again, the big thing I think that most of the drivers of the GR86s seem to contend with is the weight transfer, and they can't. It's very, very hard to predict how the very soft springs on these cars will react. And you know, you can always see when they go under braking how much the front end of the car will dive, but when they go into the corners, you know, it's a question of how much the car rolls in the front versus the rear. And you can see there Murphy Nichols, who's now our second place runner, who's gotten around Giancarlo Schooler, that those little twitches coming out of the chicane there were like multiple oscillations at the back of the car. And you know, it certainly creates an issue when you want to try and get the power down.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, are you feeling like that's a quirk of the iRacing model that they've put in with this new car, or do you see some kind of familiarity to the real world?
So interestingly enough, because we haven't seen the GR86s, the GR86 Cup cars, this iteration, turning wheels in anger during real life races yet. The only thing I have to go by is there was a magazine write-up about 2 months ago where some journalists were invited to Sebring International Raceway to do some not only ride-arounds but some testing of the GR86 Cup cars as they would be configured for competition in SRO. And the big thing that they talked about was the very soft spring rates. The other thing that they discussed was the braking. And Toyota and the folks from Gazoo Racing were very adamant that this car would have the capability of stopping on a dime, essentially, with very quick stops. But they've played around quite a bit with the ABS. They've also played around and changed the brake master cylinder in order to actually increase or I guess decrease the braking capabilities of these cars to make them, you know, less GT4 like, I guess, is the way to put it. And so there are, you know, a lot of issues, and nobody really knows yet if iRacing got it right or they got it wrong, because they don't have any real life cars to compare to.
Well, only time will tell then, but yeah, Greenfield having a big issue. Oof. And fortunately a huge gravel trap at the end of that straight there meant he had space to the wall.
Yeah, as he ends up all the way down into the tail end of China Beach, the biggest gravel trap of pretty much any racetrack in the United States that I know of there. But he was carrying a lot of speed, brushed the wall, and gets the car back underway. But Greenfield now falls all the way back into, I think, 24th position, a net loss of 16 positions here as we're back on board in this battle for second position. Murphy Nichols and one of the Jettas, the 63 machine, wisely holding station there in the grass to let that battle go by. It's Murphy Nichols in the white number 5, Giancarlo Schooler, who started on the outside of the front row, and Will Robbins in the blue and black number 35 machine. A great little scrap now for second, as we're just a little bit under halfway through this 20-minute race, but Caleb Patry at the moment has just checked out late.
Yeah, like I say, looking pretty comfortable for now with that 3-second gap. I mean, you spotted it right at the start. He kind of pulled the pin from the beginning and has kept that pressure on all the way through. But let's see what kind of battling that Nichols and Schooler continue with as they work their way through the mid part of the race now. And do they allow anyone else to get sucked into the battle?
Well, we'll see here, and there you go. There's that weight transfer. You saw how both the 111 and the 35 machine just dropped all the way to the nose as Robbins, a great move, staying to the inside. Oh, and look at the rear end as it slips around, coming down through turn 6. Robbins had a great move, again, going around the outside of Schooler, coming through turn 4 up the hill to Madness. But that last little wiggle coming down the hill allows Schooler to separate himself out from Will Robbins. But you know, you see just those couple corners of fighting for position between Schooler and Robbins, and Murphy Nichols now opens up about a second advantage now over those two racers, as we see Brian McRae having some issues in the number 98 machine. And let's see what happens to McRae here, Lee, as he's coming through the S's.
Yeah, really closely followed by the car behind. So is he going to get a little nudge going in? He does, and just continues to get pushed for good measure. Yeah.
That was the old chrome horn, as they say here in the States, as he goes around, and he's going to fall all the way a number of positions back. As we jump over right now, and this is the battle that we're watching right now between Justin Huffman, John Wilson, and Skip Brock Jr. Skip Brock, a Spec Miata racer in real life competition. This is the battle for 5th, as you can see, quite a bit off the that battle for second, about 4.5 seconds up the road.
Yeah, like I say, nice little groupings throughout the field. Right on cue, Jonathan gives us the visual side of that as well, so we can see the different little groupings going down the field with the orange and yellow gaps, meaning they're within a second and half a second respectively. Yeah, Burkhardt as well, still leading in the Jettas in P11. So yeah, he's got a little bit of breathing space over Forster in 13th overall, second in class. So yeah, no more issues between the two of them forthcoming at the minute, with Burkhardt having that little bit of breathing space. Interesting just to watch this for a sec. For us to think, so it's just to think about for a sec with like how are we seeing the ebb and flow between the Jetta and the GR86 at the different points of the circuit. You know, are we really seeing the Jetta sort of scamper away down that long back straight, and then the Toyota kind of claw back up, or is it kind of just overall more even than we anticipated? It'd be interesting to just kind of keep an eye.
It looks as though it has actually been quite even, and I think what you're seeing is the grip levels that the GR86s have coming through the corners, and they've got a little bit higher cornering speed than the Jettas do. The Jettas, I think, have a little bit of an advantage, you know, once they get on the boil and they get up to 5th and 6th gear, perhaps in a straight line. But and you know, this is in club racing, Lee, where most organizations have multi-class racing in each group. I mean, this is something that real life racers have to deal with every single weekend here in amateur levels. And so kind of neat to see it play out as you have these two separate classes that seem just so evenly matched here. I'll tell you, there's a great little battle, I think, going on right now, and just ahead of where we're watching right now, between Beans Forster and Andrew Pilata in the battle for second in the Jettas. Let's see here. Well, until and you can see there it is, and they've got Brian McRae and Josh Justice right behind them. And you know, and it may be just an issue also, Lee, that that the GR86s can't find a way to get around, can't torque out of some of these tighter corners either.
It definitely seems like we saw the onboard a minute ago, how the Toyota was having to take wide lines around the corners, trying not to get kind of boxed in by the Jetta, and then just kind of couldn't do anything about it on the exit. Let's have a quick look and see what happened to Murphy Nichols on that little incident a moment ago.
Yeah, let's take a look here now. Murphy had been running in second place, and here they go coming down into and this is the same corner we've seen so many other drivers have issues with tonight, over by turn 9, where the track rises up and then just drops back down, and dropping right off was Murphy Nichols, and looks like another driver looking to avoid spun to the inside as well, but that now moves Giancarlo Schooler up into second position, with Will Robbins now running a fairly distant second, or probably a fairly distant third, after such a good scrap early on in this race. With only 5 minutes remaining to go in this 20-minute battle, Will Robbins finds himself almost 3 seconds in arrears of our second place runner, Giancarlo Schooler.
Yeah, so those top sort of 4 or 5 positions are looking sort of reasonably secure for now, and certainly the battle then looks to be a little bit further back from sort of 6th and onwards. And yeah, right on cue there is Casera battling for, or challenging rather, for that 5th position on the grid. And I dare say we're going to see plenty of changes in amongst those cars still to come. Very different line taken on that one as well between Wilson and Casera, but didn't really seem that it gained Casera a huge amount that time.
No, so hopefully John can maybe take us a little bit further back in the pack. A really good Jetta battle going on. This, I believe, is for 6th in Jettas, in the Jetta class, 22nd overall. Jeff Andrews in the number 65 machine, Mike Snow, Frank Schwartz. And it looks as though Andrews has maybe opened up a little bit of a gap there to the 2 Jettas behind. All right, but let's go. Actually, a good battle going on, and this was the battle for 2nd in the Jettas right now. We've got Beans Forster in the 231 machine, in the dark blue machine. He's got Brian McRae in that GR86 right behind, and then the white Jetta of Andrew Pilata. Again, this is the battle for 2nd in class. And the Jetta up ahead, I believe, is a lapped car. And yeah, he's going to pull off to driver's left to let these other drivers through. And I think that was Charles Bailey in the number 63 machine.
Yeah, but like I say, it looks like Force is still going to be under a lot of pressure from McCree the whole time, and we'll see if. I mean, what do you do if you're Pilota behind there? You know, you've got a car kind of not in your class, but you're all in the same race in between you. You want to challenge for that position. How aggressive do you get? How much do you really kind of try and shove your nose in and allow yourself to try and compete for that position ahead? We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those stories, much like when you watch, prototype cars with GT3 cars, maybe try to take advantage, use the overtaking car to kind of pull you through and slot underneath the racer that you're trying to take advantage of. Unfortunately, it looks like Pilata may be just a little bit too far off the pace of Brian McRae to take advantage of McRae, and McRae has just gotten around Forster, so that may not be an issue. As it looks like McRae has decided to go around the outside of Beans Forster in that blue number 231 machine, and that has allowed Pilata now to draft right up to the back. And so we'll see what happens now as they come down the front or the back straight here, under braking into turn 4.
Yeah, a little bit of closing, much tighter line, wasn't it, for Pilota? It looked like as they started to work their way into the apex, but a bit of traffic now coming up, and
yeah,
so we'll see.
Yeah, and it looks like they're stacking up, and again, this is either Charles Bailey or possibly Alan Briere, either the 63 or the 56 car, as they came through, and that closed them all back up as well. We've got now under 2 minutes remaining in this 20-minute run. Again, Caleb Patry is your leader. Giancarlo Schooler running a distant second now, almost 6 seconds in arrears, as Patry has just spent the evening trying to work his way through both some of the slower Jetta as well as GR86 traffic, and he appears to be managing the equipment quite well.
Yeah, like I say, looks very much under control, as we've got a battle going on for the GR86s for that 10th position. Brewster, Ray, just half a second between them, and only a minute or so left, so depending on how they quite fall in relation to the leader, they've only got a lap or so, Greg, to get any changes of position done.
That's it. The lead car in that group that we're watching right now, that's the white number 5 of Murphy Nichols, who had been running as high as 2nd position tonight, started the evening in 4th. He's got Jim Brewster and Stevie Ray right behind. They are running 9th, 10th, and 11th in class. And then the trailing car, talking about managing the equipment, the trail car in that group is the number 40 Volkswagen Jetta TDI Cup of Morgan Burkhardt, looking for his 2nd win of the evening. And so Caleb Patry now coming onto the front straight with the white flag in the air. One more lap here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, and Caleb Patry can take his first win of the season.
Yeah, I say being under control from the very start. So yeah, just that final lap to go, but a lot less under control back here for the Jettas between Forster and Palotta, and again, a bit of traffic ahead for Forster as well. So we'll see if that's going to create any opportunities as they work their way onto the start finish line.
And watching the battle between Forster and Palotta as it continues to rage on. Again, this is the battle for the 2nd step on the podium, and as they came through the final corners and had to contend with Josh Justice in the GR86 Cup car directly behind. Forster trying to hold on, trying to drift that car through the corners. He now has only 3/4 of a lap remaining that he has to hold off Andrew Palotta if he wants to come home 2nd here tonight in the TDI Cup. But a very good battle going on, and these Jettas, when they race together, they are, again, and I think a lot of it has to do with the draft, much like you see with the ND MX5 Cup cars. The draft makes up for a lot of issues that you may have in some of the corners here. But coming out of the final corner, it hasn't had to worry about the draft all night. Caleb Patry taking the win here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, wins race number 2, is our winner in the GR86 Cup cars. Giancarlo Schooler in the 111 machine, he will come home in 2nd, and Will Robbins in that blue and black number 35, he crosses the line. He will take the 3rd step on the podium. Skip Brock Jr. works his way up to 5th position. Great run for Skip as he started 9th this evening. Bob Kucera works his way back up into 5th after that early off. He had been all the way up at towards the front of the field, and recovers to 5th. John Wilson in the number 82 machine. Great to see him back with the Esports Racing League. He comes home in 6th tonight. Justin Huffman will finish in 7th. Nagase Yoshikawa makes up 4 positions tonight to finish in 8th. Murphy Nichols, who'd been as high as 2nd tonight in the GR86 Cup cars, he finishes 9th. Jim Brewster rounds out the top 10 in GR86. Taking the win in the Jettas is going to be Morgan Burkhardt, and here's that battle for 2nd. Coming home in 2nd position is Brian McRae. Beans Forster will come, or Beans Forster comes home in 2nd. Andrew Palotta will finish in 3rd in the in the TDI Cup cars. Paul Slavonic will finish in 4th. Trenton Kramer will finish 5th in TDI. Jeff Andrews will finish 6th. Then finishing 7th is Michael Snow, Joaquin Effinger, Sam Tully, and Russell Z will round out the top 10. Well, there you go, Lee. Absolutely. There you go, Lee. Absolutely. Hectic as can be for 20 minutes here, but great fighting in both the GR86 Cup and also the TDI Cup cars. And so let's do this. Let's bring in one of our podium finishers, finishing 2nd tonight in the TDI Cup cars. It's Beans Forster, driver of the number 231 machine. All right, Beans, congratulations on your 2nd place finish, and looked pretty hectic out there, but you had a great battle with Andrew Palotta.
Yeah, that was pretty crazy. The 86s and the Jettas kind of work really well together, and it could be a little frustrating sometimes, but this is going to be a fun season.
Yeah, Lee and I were wondering how things were playing out with the two classes. I mean, obviously, the GR86s, they've got the grip. They can carry speed through the corners. The Jettas certainly can torque their way out of tight corners, unlike the GR86s that have maybe might have some taller gearing. But it worked well for you this evening, and you thought the interaction was pretty good.
Oh yeah, it was awesome. I loved it. I can't wait for to see what the rest of the season's like with all the different tracks and how the cars are gonna compete with one another.
Well, we'll see it, because I think the next round that we're going to see them working together is going to be in 2 weeks at the National Park of Speed at Road America. So, Beans, tell us, who would you like to thank for tonight's race?
I want to thank Team Watson Racing and Full Send Sims for all the help that they're giving me with setups and instructing and whatnot. So, thank them, and thank you guys for putting on such a good show.
Thanks so much. All right, everybody, that is Beans Forster, driver of the number 231 Volkswagen TDI Cup, coming in second tonight here from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. And so let's now talk to our winner. Second time we've spoken to him tonight, our winner in TDI Cup, and that is Morgan Burkhardt, driver of the number 40 machine. Morgan, congratulations on your second win this evening.
Thank you very much. That was, what were you saying?
Oh, no, go ahead, please.
Oh, okay. It feels like driving ITA at Summit Point in Big Four. It's a big cluster. I mean, it's trying to try to gauge which 86s are faster and which are slower and which you can work with, and it's a big juggle, but it ended up going out okay.
Yeah, and so Beans was telling us that he thought that the interaction and how the two classes raced together actually worked out kind of well, and and I can see here on week number 1, and with a lot of new names and a lot of faces that are new to the Ray Esports Racing League, and obviously for most of these racers in chassis that they haven't raced together with. It certainly could have been convoluted, but how did you think the two chassis worked together? Were there places around Mid-Ohio where you knew the Jetta was definitely stronger than the GR86s, or vice versa?
The Jetta's definitely stronger in every straight line. So that what makes it difficult. They're so difficult to see which is faster and which is slower, is because they're both they both go the same speed, and even in the draft the 86s don't really catch, so it's very difficult to see. But other than that, I think they do work pretty well together. I mean, through the corners the 86s are faster, but they're not so drastic that it's violent. They just make speed slightly different.
Yeah. And it looked like the two different classes were able to draft off of one another, which I think kept some of the battles fairly close. So Morgan, after taking 2 wins here tonight at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, who would you like to thank?
I'd like to thank my parents again for bankrolling me basically, and you guys for making the stream look real nice and real pretty, and Stevie and Greg for putting on the lead.
Very, very cool. All right, there you go. Morgan Burkhardt, our winner tonight in the TDI Cup cars here from the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. And I would suspect that we will see you next week at the Circuit of the Americas as we have both the MX-5 Cup cars and the Spec Racer Sports racing, correct?
In all likelihood, yeah.
All right, there you go, everybody. Morgan Burkhardt, double winner tonight from Mid-Ohio. All right, so let's now move on over to the GR86 Cup podium, and we're going to start off with Giancarlo Schooler finishing second tonight here at Mid-Ohio. So Giancarlo Schooler, first off, congratulations on your podium finish.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about the battle tonight. Obviously, we had Murphy Nichols early on up towards the front with you and Will Robbins, and but it seemed to be like a pretty classic fight there between you and Will, and I think Skip Brock joined in for some of the action a little bit later on as well. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, I didn't have the best of starts there. I was a little bit late on the start, so I jumped at the P3 right away. And then from there, I made some mistakes early on. That's how Murphy Nichols got by me. But then we had a great race there for a little bit. I'm not sure what happened with the incident that we had early on with Bob. I have to go back and look at that. But yeah, other than that, it was great racing all around. We had some contact here and there, but all clean stuff. And it was tons of fun, really.
Yeah, it looked like Kucera, as you guys came out of the chicane and were going up into the keyhole, he was down to the inside, and he was on your back quarter, and I think kind of washed out just a little bit. I'm not going to go and assign blame, but it looked like, I think for you, obviously, the important thing was that you were able to keep all four wheels on the pavement and continue on. So I've been asking all of our drivers here so far from this race how you thought the interaction was between the Jettas and the GR86s. I know, obviously, as you were towards the front of the pack, you probably did encounter many of the Jettas, and you probably encountered just as many GR86s as you start to work your way through a very hectic Mid-Ohio. But how did you feel the two classes work together even during qualifying?
Yeah, I think it's a great format. So shout out to the guys that came up with this. It was tons of fun. It's a little bit difficult at times driving the 86. It's a little slower on the straights. So the Jettas had us there. But if we were able to tuck in behind them, especially in qualifying, I had a great lap. I just tucked in behind a Jetta, got the draft down the straight, and then we're a little bit better in the corners because the downforce we have do that rear wing on the back. So that helps us there. But yeah, it's tons of fun. I love the multi-class style. I know Morgan had tons of fun starting mid-pack due to the fact that the grids aren't split. So
right.
It was tons of fun for him starting halfway through the GR86 field, just dicing it up. I'm happy I didn't have to deal with that.
How bad.
But yeah, it's a great format, and just shout out to the guys for making this happen because it's tons of fun.
All right, well, there you go, Giancarlo. Who'd you like to thank for tonight's finish?
Thank my friends and family for always supporting me. Thanks Delta Sport for always having my back, and then shout out to Caleb and Morgan for being here tonight.
All right, everybody, there you go. Giancarlo Schooler finishing second tonight, both overall and in the GR86 Cup cars, and that's going to leave us one driver remaining, and that is Caleb Patry, who went flag to flag tonight to take the win in our first touring car race of the season here in the Esports Racing League. Caleb, tell us a little bit about your race.
Kind of uneventful for the most part. Just tried to keep the nose clean, keep it pointed in the right direction. It's very easy to spin this car through the corner. So just try to push as hard as I can without getting her loose and just cruise to the win.
Yeah, it looked as though a lot of drivers were having some issues at turn 9. And maybe even a bit of a wiggle coming up over Madness that, I guess as these cars, I think, are kind of known for their extreme weight transfer. What are some of the strategies that you use to keep all four wheels underneath you and keep them all on the track?
Well, I can't really speak to this car in the real world, but in iRacing, it likes a lot of heavy straight line braking. Then you got to roll off the brake as you turn in, and then slowly feed throttle back into it. So if you're braking and turning at braking hard and turning at the same time, it usually likes to spin, and especially here with all the elevation change, it just amplifies it. So yeah, just try to straight line brake, get back in the throttle early, and yeah, pretty much just take it easy into the corners.
So what you're saying is it races like a front wheel drive car.
In a way, yes.
Yeah.
With just a lot more oversteer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was going to say, and interesting. When I raced one last week, that I actually found it racing very much like a Honda, like a short wheelbase front wheel drive car, like a Honda CRX. All right, so I've been asking all the racers here in this group tonight that we've talked to about how you think the GR86s and the Jettas seem to interact. Now, obviously, other than coming up on some lap traffic during this race, you didn't have that, but how did the interaction work, and what was a very hectic qualifying session for you?
Well, the thing is with these cars is the Jetta has so much more torque. It's a lot quicker down the straights, but the GR86 makes up so much time in the corners, so it really makes it difficult when you're trying to pass a Jetta down the straight, and he's quicker there, and you kind of have to either send it or just kind of get in his mirror to have him let you by. But Yeah, I think it'll be interesting season for sure. Some tracks have longer straights than others, and it might be a little more sketchy than tonight was.
Well, I was going to say, I think the next outing that we're going to see this pairing is at Road America in 2 weeks. So if you wanted to see sketchy and how things play out with long straightaways, that's probably going to be the place to do it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for sure.
All right, so Caleb Patry, with your first win of the season here in the Esports Racing League, who'd you like to thank?
Certainly Steve Ray and Greg, everybody who makes these events possible. Tonight definitely was one for the books, as you saw with how many cars there were. You guys in Apex Racing for putting on this broadcast, and my teammates at Delta Sport. Shout out to JC and Morgan for their good drives as well.
All right, there you go, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight, Caleb, and I'm sure we'll see you next week at the Circuit of the Americas, and good luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you.
All right, there you go, everybody. Caleb Patry, your winner tonight in both GR86 and overall in our touring car race. And so as we get things wrapped up here, and we look forward to next Tuesday night. I don't think we have the schedule that we can put up on the screen, but next week we're going to be at a number of great venues over the course of this 9-week season. And again, we have 2 races per night, and each one of our 3 different groupings will race 6 times during the course of the season. As I've already mentioned, we're going to be at the Circuit of the Americas, home of the United States Formula One Grand Prix next week. We're going to be at Road America in 2 weeks. We're going to be visiting some great venues such as Sonoma Raceway, Barber Motorsports Park, and Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta, of course, Watkins Glen, Virginia International Raceway, Laguna Seca, and of course my personal favorite track, Summit Point. So everybody, I want to thank you for joining us tonight for the initial outing of season number 8 of the Ray Esports Racing League, brought to you by Common Gear, Grassroots Motorsports Magazine, and Spec Racer Sports. And I urge you to join us next Tuesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, from Circuit of the Americas, where we'll have the Mazda MX-5 Cup cars and the Spec Racer Fords for their initial runs in Texas. Everybody have a wonderful week and be well.